I am going to buy a Porsche. The funny thing about that statement is that if you knew my current situation, it's a bit of a laughable thing to say right now, but there's a point to it which we are going to get to. But if for some reason you are unfamiliar with what we've been up to around here, is just about a year ago, we decided to embark on this journey of trying to make content full-time for a living with this platform, Justin and Greg. And it was the wildest year of our life, starting with interviewing our premier, which is like a governor, the person who leads the province right here in our basement. And part of it was this story about Saskatchewan, our province, adopting the Vegas Golden Knights as the official team of Saskatchewan. That led us on a journey down to Vegas that somehow exploded in the media, and in the end we ended up doing the intro video for Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final in Vegas, and they showed that video in the locker room to the players before they took the ice. And we made a video that did 11 million views called Rural Uber, and the CEO of Uber watched it and said, "That's hilarious," with a word in between there. And we chased down this story of Jimmy Fallon making fun of the city of Regina, where we're from. And we're like, we're going to fly to New York and we're going to get in his studios and deliver him a t-shirt. And all of our plans failed, but a new plan came up while we were there. Of course it did. That we ended up getting connected with a crew member, got a private tour, delivered the t-shirts, to starting an international moose war with Norway that was on the New York Times and the Washington Post, and Stephen Colbert made fun of it. And here in Canada, we're on a This Hour's 22-minute sketch, and we got to go on the radio to 90 million people on the world's largest broadcaster, BBC, the largest show in the world, all because we took a gigantic risk. And it has been the most incredible year of my life. But we came to the realization that the reason it was so successful was because we didn't really try and make money off of it. In fact, many times we turned down money because with the money came certain responsibilities that in many ways we felt like would have taken away from some of the stories that we wanted to tell. The problem when you don't monetize anything is that you don't make any money. And for both Greg and I, when we have families and wives, that creates some problems. And that's kind of the lead into this video. Is we decided that it was time now, after a full year, and realizing, hey, not only, like, maybe we could monetize this, but we don't want to, because the stories lose their purity in many ways with the money attached, or the situations that we could get into given where we are. And so we decided it's time to move on from this season and to take what we've learned, which is incredible and wild over the last year, and do something different. And we don't know if that means together. We don't know if that means separate. We just know it's going to be different. And even as Justin and Greg, you could kind of feel we had a few more doors to walk through of ways where we thought we could get funded and it would make sense, and the doors kind of kept closing. I had this wild thought about buying a Porsche. And the thing is if you don't know this about me, I've always been a massive car guy. Ever since the first car that my dad and I kind of worked on together in high school, a 1986 Mazda RX-7. It was red, and it was the car I drove in high school. I loved that car, and I was kind of hooked on that and got on the show Top Gear, and have had probably 15 cars. In the process of Justin and Greg to help fund our efforts and to try and keep it going, I actually had to sell my own personal car, which was special to me because it kind of married a lot of things I loved, and that it was, it was fast and it was fun to drive, but also had 4 doors for a family and reasonably good on gas. And it was like, I loved this car. I loved it. And it was both fun and practical, and I had to give it up to try and keep chasing this dream. And as this was drawing to the close, I had this thought about buying a Porsche. And the funny thing about a Porsche is not practical. it's not a wise choice. It's not a good investment, especially for me. I'm not planning to buy a new Porsche. I'm planning to buy an older Porsche because, well, it brings it somewhat in the realm of affordability, but they're also like, they can be money pits and there's a lot of risk with them. And, you know, for a family where we've got 3 kids, it doesn't make as much sense and they're not as good on gas and all. But then I had this thought about how sometimes in our life, we're trying way too hard to be practical, to make the practical choices and to not be impractical. But the thing that I think I've learned more than anything in this season is sometimes it's the wildly impractical choices that lead you to the best and greatest stories. And there's something special about being human beings and having emotions and making emotional purchases. Oftentimes we say that like a negative, like you don't want, that was an emotional purchase and it was a bad purchase. But sometimes there's something so special about making a purchase that really means something to you that isn't always practical. It could be an expensive jacket that you've wanted for years, a leather coat. It could be, a camera that you've dreamed of owning that is old and vintage and expensive, but it means something to you. It could be a collection of books. It could be all sorts of things where it's not about the practical nature, but it's the way that it makes you feel. And I think there's a lot of things too that actually help you feel childlike. And for me, cars, maybe they make me feel a little bit childish or make me make some childish choices, but more than anything, they take me back to a time when things were simpler and childlike, and just the sheer enjoyment for me of driving a fast, fun car down the road with the windows open and a good stereo that there's something inside of me that comes alive doing that. And in order to get there, it's an impractical choice. But I think it's something that I actually want to work towards. Is in this time right now, I've always been a person, I've lived my life without being in debt, other than like a house, which is not debt, that's an investment. And I was always debt free. But this last season, as we were chasing these dreams and these journeys and giving up paychecks, and then my wife needed a $20,000 jaw surgery we had to do, and then our roof had to be replaced, and that was like $10,000. And I now find myself in this financial debt hole that I do not want to be in. And the thought of not only getting out of all of this debt, but then going into the process of buying a car that isn't practical when you've got kids and all these other things seems insurmountable. Maybe not insurmountable, but certainly far, far off. But it's something that I want to dream for, and something that I want to make some choices to try and help me get there. And you would think at some point you go, well, that money could be better spent somewhere else. And I actually challenge that thought, because if there are things in your life that make you come alive, oftentimes we aren't willing to take the financial risk to go after those things. And the thing I've learned over the last year is, while it may not be the best use of your money, the memories and the experiences that you create can fundamentally change the rest of your life. And I feel like somehow this Porsche for me is a metaphor for a new season, but also something inside of me where I'm going into a season of choosing some more practical things, of finding a job or getting back into like my business and the consulting. And I'm not even sure yet, but it's a slightly more practical side. But at the same time, I'm going to hold in tension this impractical dream of buying a Porsche that makes no sense, because I always want to keep alive that whimsical dreaming side of me. And maybe there's some other people there too, where you haven't been willing to take the risks, or you're worried about being practical, and you might need to make some impractical decisions or to take some steps to do something that it's just for you to come alive and discover a little bit more about who you are. As cliche as that sounds, there's something really special about going on a journey of that self-discovery and figuring out where it is and where you want to go and what makes you tick. And oftentimes you don't know it until you try it. And so you just got to go for it. So this is the first video in what is going to be the weirdest series of videos that I actually have of my journey to buying a Porsche. And it's not even going to be that much about cars as much as it is just the journey of finding and creating a whimsical story that isn't practical and doesn't make sense, but the journey of, I don't know, the next season. And, I don't know. As much like a vlog about me and my journey, like, who cares? But on the other hand, everybody's always like, I'm not that interesting. And I get it. Yeah, this doesn't seem that interesting, but it's a journey, and it's more for me anyway, of just documenting the process so I have something to look back on, and maybe even something to pass along to my kids to go, hey, go after things that you get excited about, and don't worry about always the practical nature of it. Make sure you take care of what you need to take care of, but also you got to risk and live too. It's attention. That's it, I think. For now. There'll be more.